The afternoon sun filtered through the tall windows of Metropolitan Bank as Seo-Jun Park pushed through the heavy glass doors behind her mother. The 12-year-old girl clutched her backpack tightly, her school uniform slightly wrinkled after a long day of classes. She had not wanted to come to the bank after school, but her mother needed to update some important papers, and there was no one else to watch her at home. Ji-won Park walked straight to the reception desk, her tired face showing the strain of working 2 jobs since her husband had passed away 3 months ago. She spoke quietly to the receptionist who directed her to wait for the next available teller. Ji-won guided Seo-Jun to the waiting area, a row of cushioned chairs near the window. "Do your homework while we wait," Ji-won said softly, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's face. "It might take a while." Seo-Jun nodded and pulled out her folder. Inside was a permission slip for a field trip to the Science Museum next week. Her private academy required parent signatures for all trips, and she needed to turn it in tomorrow. She also had math problems to finish, but the permission slip seemed easier to start with. She clicked her pen and began filling in her name on the first line. As a left-handed writer, Seo-Jun had always struggled with handwriting. The side of her hand would smudge the ink as it moved across the page. Her letters tilted at odd angles, and her teacher had told her that her cursive needed more practice. But Seo-Jun tried her best, carefully forming each letter. 20 minutes passed. A teller finally called Ji-won's name, and she stood up, touching Seo-Jun's shoulder. "Stay right here. I will be just over there if you need me." She pointed to a desk about 30 feet away. Seo-Jun watched her mother walk to the teller's station, then returned to her permission slip. She was writing her address when a shadow fell across her paper. "What is that supposed to be?" Seo-Jun looked up to see a man in a gray suit standing over her. He was tall, maybe in his 40s, with thinning brown hair and a name tag that read, Marcus Webb, Senior Associate. His arms were crossed, and he was staring at her paper with a look of disbelief. "It is my permission slip," Seo-Jun said quietly. "For school." Marcus Webb leaned closer, squinting at her handwriting. Then he laughed. It was not a kind laugh. It was the type of laugh that made Seo-Jun's stomach twist. "Chicken scratch," Marcus said loudly. "That is what this looks like. Pure chicken scratch." He picked up her paper without asking, holding it up to the light as if examining some strange artifact. "Are you even trying? I mean, really trying?" Seo-Jun felt her face grow hot. Other people in the bank were starting to look their way. An elderly couple near the ATM turned to stare. A businessman in line glanced over his shoulder. "I am left-handed," Seo-Jun said, her voice barely above a whisper. "And I am still learning cursive. My teacher said it takes practice." Marcus laughed again, even louder this time. "Left-handed? That is your excuse?" He shook his head as if she had just told him the most ridiculous thing he had ever heard. "Kids these days always have an excuse for everything. Back when I was in school, we just did the work properly. No excuses." Seo-Jun reached for her paper, but Marcus held it just out of her reach, still examining it with exaggerated disgust. She could feel tears starting to burn behind her eyes, but she refused to cry. Not here, not in front of all these people. "What school is this anyway?" Marcus tilted the paper, reading the letterhead. "Westfield Academy?" His eyebrows shot up. "That is a fancy private school. Very expensive." He looked at Seo-Jun with a mixture of surprise and judgment. Maybe some kids just are not meant for fancy private schools. "If you cannot even write properly, how are you supposed to keep up with the smart kids?" The words hit Seo-Jun like a slap. She stared at her hands, feeling smaller and smaller with each passing second. She wanted to explain that she had a scholarship, that she was one of the top students in her class, that she had won the science fair last year, but the words would not come out. Her throat felt tight and closed. Marcus finally dropped the paper back onto her lap. "You should practice more," he said in a fake helpful voice that everyone nearby could hear. "A lot more. That handwriting is not going to get you anywhere in life." He chuckled to himself and walked back toward his desk on the other side of the bank. Seo-Jun sat frozen in her chair. The elderly couple was still looking at her. The businessman had turned away, but she had seen the pity in his eyes. She quickly shoved the permission slip back into her folder, not caring that it crumpled at the edges. Her hands were shaking. From across the bank, Catherine Rodriguez, the branch manager, stood at her office door. She had heard loud laughter and had stepped out to see what was happening. She caught the tail end of the interaction, seeing Marcus walk away from the young girl with a satisfied smirk on his face. Catherine frowned. She could not hear what had been said, but the girl's body language told her enough. The child looked devastated. Catherine made a mental note to ask Marcus about it later. This was not the first time she had seen him interact poorly with customers. When she had taken over as branch manager 6 months ago, she had reviewed his file. There were a few complaints, but previous managers had dismissed them as personality conflicts. Marcus had been with the bank for 15 years. He knew his job well, but Catherine was starting to wonder if technical skill was enough. At the teller station, Ji-won finished signing the last document. The teller smiled and handed her copies of everything. "You are all set, Mrs. Park. Is there anything else we can help you with today?" "No, thank you," Ji-won said. She gathered her papers and turned to walk back to the waiting area. That was when she saw her daughter's face. Seo-jun was staring at her lap, her shoulders hunched forward. Even from a distance, Ji-won could see that something was wrong. A mother knows. She quickened her pace, weaving between other customers. Seo-jun? Ji-won sat down beside her daughter, placing a gentle hand on her back. "What happened? Are you okay?" Seo-jun looked up, and Ji-won saw the tears that her daughter had been fighting to hold back. One escaped, rolling down her cheek. "Can we go home?" Seo-jun whispered. "Please?" Ji-won did not ask any more questions. She helped Seo-jun pack up her homework and slung the backpack over her own shoulder. As they walked toward the exit, Ji-won scanned the bank, trying to understand what had happened in the 10 minutes she had been at the teller's window. Everything had seemed fine when she left. Several employees watched them leave. Marcus Webb sat at his desk, already focused on his computer screen, completely unaware of the storm he had just created. He had forgotten about the interaction the moment he sat down. It had been nothing to him. Just another day, another small moment of feeling superior. But to Seo-jun, it had been everything. They rode the bus home in silence. Ji-won held her daughter close, feeling the tension in her small body. When they finally reached their apartment, Ji-won made hot chocolate and sat with Seo-jun at the kitchen table. "Tell me what happened," Ji-won said softly, and Seo-jun did. The words came tumbling out between sobs. She told her mother about the man in the gray suit, about how he had mocked her handwriting in front of everyone, about how he had said she did not belong at her school. She told her mother how small and stupid he had made her feel. Ji-won listened, her expression growing harder with each sentence. By the time Seo-jun finished, Ji-won's jaw was set in a way that Seo-jun recognized. It was the same look her mother got when something was seriously wrong, when action needed to be taken. "What was his name?" Ji-won asked quietly. "Marcus Webb," Seo-jun said, remembering the name tag. It said he was a senior associate. Ji-won nodded slowly. She pulled her daughter into a tight hug, kissing the top of her head. "You did nothing wrong," she said firmly. "Your handwriting is fine. You are smart and talented, and you absolutely belong at Westfield Academy. That man had no right to speak to you that way." "But what if he is right?" Seo-jun asked, her voice small. "What if I am not good enough?" "He is not right," Ji-won said, her voice steel. "And I am going to make sure he understands that." That night, after Seo-jun had gone to bed, Ji-won sat at her laptop. She pulled up the Metropolitan Bank website and found the customer service page. She noted the branch manager's name, Catherine Rodriguez. Then she composed an email requesting a meeting, but Ji-won did not send it. Instead, she decided she would go to the bank in person tomorrow. Some conversations needed to happen face to face. In her bedroom, Seo-jun lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She thought about the permission slip still crumpled in her backpack. She thought about Marcus Webb's laugh echoing through the bank. She thought about all the people who had stared at her, and she wondered if she would ever feel confident again. The next morning, Ji-won Park dropped her daughter at school and then took a different bus than usual. Instead of heading to her first job at the medical office, she rode downtown to Metropolitan Bank. She had called in sick, something she rarely did, but this could not wait. She arrived at the bank just as it opened at 9 o'clock. The same glass doors, the same marble floors. But today, Ji-won saw it differently. Yesterday, she had been a grieving widow just trying to update her accounts. Today, she was a mother on a mission. The receptionist greeted her with a professional smile. "Good morning. How can we help you today?" "I need to speak with Catherine Rodriguez, the branch manager," Ji-won said calmly. "It is about a serious customer service issue." The receptionist's smile faltered slightly. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but I can wait." The receptionist picked up her phone and spoke quietly into it. After a moment, she hung up and nodded. Ms. Rodriguez can see you in 15 minutes. Please have a seat. Ji-won sat in the same waiting area where her daughter had been humiliated yesterday. She looked at the chair where Seo-jun had been sitting, and her resolve hardened. Exactly 15 minutes later, a woman in a navy blue suit approached. She was in her mid-40s with dark hair pulled back in a neat bun and intelligent brown eyes behind stylish glasses. Mrs. Park, I am Catherine Rodriguez. Please come to my office. Catherine's office was small but organized with a window overlooking the street. She gestured for Ji-won to sit and closed the door behind them. The receptionist mentioned a customer service issue, Catherine said, sitting behind her desk. Can you tell me what happened? Ji-won told the story exactly as Seo-jun had described it. She kept her voice steady and professional, stating facts without exaggeration. She described Marcus Webb's behavior, his mocking of her daughter's handwriting, his loud comments that drew the attention of other customers, and his suggestion that Seo-jun did not belong at her private school. Catherine listened without interrupting, her expression growing more serious with each detail. When Ji-won finished, Catherine was quiet for a long moment. Mrs. Park, I am deeply sorry this happened to your daughter, Catherine said finally. This is absolutely unacceptable behavior. Do you remember approximately what time this occurred? Around 3:30 yesterday afternoon. Catherine opened her laptop and began typing. We have security cameras throughout the bank. With your permission, I would like to review the footage from that time. Please do, Ji-won said. Catherine made a few phone calls, and within minutes a security officer arrived with access to the video system. Catherine pulled up the footage from yesterday afternoon, fast-forwarding to 3:30. They watched in silence as the scene played out on screen. Even without audio, it was damning. The footage clearly showed Marcus Webb approaching Seo-jun, picking up her paper, holding it up mockingly, and laughing while gesturing at it. Other customers turning to look. Seo-jun shrinking in her chair. Marcus's exaggerated expressions of disbelief and judgment. Catherine's jaw tightened as she watched. Thank you, she told the security officer, who nodded and left the office. Mrs. Park, this is completely unacceptable, Catherine said. I want you to know that I take this very seriously. I am going to launch a formal investigation into this incident. Has he done this before? Ji-won asked directly. Catherine hesitated, then nodded slowly. When I became branch manager 6 months ago, I reviewed all personnel files. Marcus Webb has been with us for 15 years. He is technically skilled at his job, but there have been complaints about his interpersonal behavior. How many complaints? 3 formal ones in his file. Previous managers noted them but did not take disciplinary action. The complaints were labeled as personality clashes or misunderstandings. And now? Ji-won asked. Now I am going to look into every single one of those complaints again, and I am going to interview staff members confidentially to see if there are other incidents that were never reported. Catherine leaned forward, her expression earnest. Mrs. Park, I want you to know that your daughter did nothing wrong, and this bank has a responsibility to treat all customers with respect, especially children. Ji-won nodded. I appreciate that, but I need to know this will result in real action, not just more notes in a file. You have my word, Catherine said. I will keep you informed every step of the way. After Ji-won left, Catherine immediately began her investigation. She pulled Marcus Webb's complete employment file and read through it carefully. The 3 formal complaints told a troubling story. The first complaint was from 5 years ago. A female customer had reported that Marcus made dismissive comments about her understanding of financial products, suggesting she should bring her husband to explain things to her. The manager at the time had spoken to Marcus, who claimed he was just trying to be helpful. No formal discipline. The second complaint was from 3 years ago. An elderly Asian customer reported that Marcus had made comments about his accent and had spoken to him slowly and loudly, as if he could not understand English. Marcus had apologized when confronted, saying he was just trying to ensure clear communication. Again, no formal discipline. The third complaint was from 18 months ago. A young mother reported that Marcus had made judgmental comments about her being on public assistance while she was trying to open an account. Marcus had denied saying anything inappropriate. No witnesses, no discipline. Catherine sat back in her chair, feeling frustrated. How had this been allowed to continue for so long? She picked up her phone and began calling staff members, starting with those who had worked with Marcus the longest. Her first call was to Min-ho Kim, a junior teller who had been at the bank for 2 years. Catherine asked him to come to her office. Min-ho arrived looking nervous. He was young, maybe 25, and clearly uncomfortable being called to the manager's office. "Min-ho, please sit down," Catherine said warmly. "You are not in any trouble. I am conducting a confidential review of workplace culture, and I would like your honest feedback." Min-ho relaxed slightly. "Okay. Have you ever experienced or witnessed any inappropriate behavior from Marcus Webb?" Min-ho's expression changed. He looked down at his hands. "Can this really be confidential?" "Yes. Anything you tell me will be kept between us unless it becomes necessary for a formal investigation. I am trying to understand if there are patterns of behavior I need to address." Min-ho took a deep breath. "Marcus makes comments about my accent sometimes. Not when customers are around, but in the break room or when we are closing up. He will say things like, 'Speak English, we are in America,' or ask if I learned banking in Korea. I was born in Seattle." Catherine made notes. "How often does this happen?" "Maybe once or twice a month." "He acts like he is joking, so I never reported it. I did not want to be seen as too sensitive." "That is not being too sensitive. That is experiencing workplace harassment. Thank you for telling me. Is there anyone else who might have similar experiences?" Min-ho hesitated. "Patricia Johnson. She has been here forever. I think she could tell you a lot." Catherine thanked Min-ho and called Patricia Johnson next. Patricia was a customer service representative in her late 50s who had been with the bank for 12 years. When Catherine asked about Marcus Webb, Patricia sighed heavily. "Do you want the truth or the polite version?" Patricia asked. "The truth. Marcus Webb is a condescending, arrogant man who treats anyone he considers beneath him like garbage," Patricia said bluntly. "He undermines me with customers all the time. If I am helping someone and Marcus walks by, he will sometimes interrupt and act like I do not know what I am doing. He makes little comments about my age, suggesting I am not up to date on technology or modern banking practices. Last month, he told a customer that they might want to work with someone from the younger generation who understands digital banking better. I was standing right there. "Why did you never file a formal complaint?" Catherine asked gently. Patricia laughed bitterly. "Because Marcus has been here 15 years and managers love him. He is good at his technical work. He knows the systems. He makes the branch look good on paper. Every time I tried to raise concerns with previous managers, I was told I was being too sensitive or that Marcus did not mean anything by it." Catherine felt anger building in her chest. "Patricia, I am not previous managers. If you are willing, I would like you to write down specific incidents with dates if you can remember them. And I want you to know that I take this seriously." Patricia looked at Catherine carefully, as if trying to decide whether to trust her. Finally, she nodded. "I will write everything down." Over the next 2 days, Catherine interviewed 8 more employees. The stories were consistent. Marcus Webb had a pattern of belittling behavior, particularly toward women, people of color, younger employees, and customers he perceived as less educated or lower class. He hid it well around senior management, but those who worked with him daily had dozens of examples. Catherine also discovered something troubling in the customer account records. Over the past 2 years, 17 customers had closed their accounts with no stated reason. This was unusual. Most people who close accounts provide a reason, even if it is just that they are moving to another city. Catherine began calling these former customers. The third person she reached, a woman named Jennifer Torres, was willing to talk. "I closed my account because of an employee named Marcus," Jennifer said. "He made me feel stupid every time I came into that bank. I am a single mother working 2 jobs and I do not have a college degree. Marcus acted like I was wasting his time with my small account balance. He would sigh loudly when I asked questions. One time he asked if I had considered financial literacy classes. I just could not take it anymore. "Why did you not file a complaint?" Catherine asked. "Because I was embarrassed," Jennifer admitted, "and I figured no one would believe me." He was very careful never to say anything directly offensive. It was all in his tone, his body language. "How do you report that?" Catherine thanked her and made detailed notes. By the end of her investigation, she had documented over 20 separate incidents of Marcus Webb's problematic behavior. The pattern was undeniable. She contacted the regional office and requested a meeting with the district manager and human resources. This was beyond her authority to handle alone. Meanwhile, Marcus Webb continued working, completely unaware of the investigation. He noticed that Catherine had been busy with meetings, but he assumed it was normal corporate business. He had no idea that his 15-year career at the bank was about to come to an end. On Friday afternoon, Linda Chen from Corporate Human Resources arrived at the branch. She was a serious woman in her early 50s, with decades of experience handling personnel issues. Catherine briefed her on everything she had discovered. Linda reviewed all the evidence, the security footage, the employee interviews, the pattern of customer complaints, the closed accounts. She read through Marcus's personnel file and shook her head. "This should have been addressed years ago," Linda said. "This is a liability waiting to happen. We are lucky that none of these customers have sued the bank." "What do we do now?" Catherine asked. "We build an airtight case for termination," Linda said. "And we do it properly by the book. I need a few more days to document everything according to corporate protocols. But Catherine, I want you to know that you did the right thing by taking this seriously." Catherine nodded, feeling relieved but also frustrated that it had taken this long. Neither of them knew that the situation was about to become much more complicated, because Ji-won Park was not just a grieving widow and concerned mother. She was about to become their new boss. Catherine Rodriguez spent the weekend reviewing all the documentation she and Linda Chen had gathered. The evidence against Marcus Webb was overwhelming. What had started as a single incident with a 12-year-old girl had uncovered a 15-year pattern of discriminatory behavior that had been ignored by previous management. On Monday morning, Linda Chen returned to the branch with more questions. She wanted to understand not just what Marcus had done, but why it had been allowed to continue for so long. "I have been reviewing the previous managers who supervised Marcus Webb," Linda said, spreading files across Catherine's desk. 3 different branch managers over 15 years. Every single one of them received complaints about Marcus. Every single one dismissed those complaints. "Why?" Catherine asked. "Because Marcus makes the branch profitable," Linda said bluntly. "He is excellent at upselling services. He knows every banking regulation. He closes deals. Previous managers saw the numbers and ignored the human cost." She closed the files and looked at Catherine directly. "But times are changing. Corporate has new standards for conduct and inclusion. We cannot afford employees like Marcus Webb anymore, not just morally but legally and financially." "When will you make a decision?" Catherine asked. "I already have," Linda said. "I am recommending immediate termination with cause. I am flying back to corporate headquarters this afternoon to get final approval, but given the evidence, I am confident they will agree. We should be ready to proceed by Wednesday." Catherine nodded, feeling a sense of relief. "What about the girl, Seojun Park, and her mother?" "I will recommend that corporate reach out personally to apologize," Linda said. "This never should have happened." What neither Catherine nor Linda knew was that Ji-won Park had been incredibly busy that week as well. She had been preparing for her first day at her new job, a job she had not mentioned to anyone at the bank. 2 months earlier, before her husband had passed away, Ji-won had completed her MBA from a prestigious university. She had balanced full-time graduate school with raising Seojun, driven by a determination to build a better future for her family. Her late husband had been so proud of her. During her final semester, Ji-won had interviewed for several executive positions. One of them was with Metropolitan Financial Group, the parent company that owned Metropolitan Bank and 47 other branches across the district. The position was Regional Vice President of Community Relations, a newly created role focused on improving customer experience, implementing diversity initiatives, and strengthening ties with local communities. Ji-won had gone through 6 rounds of interviews. The hiring committee had been impressed by her combination of business knowledge and genuine passion for community service. She had experience working with nonprofit organizations, understood the challenges facing working families, and had a clear vision for how banks could better serve diverse communities. They had offered her the job 3 weeks before her husband died. Ji-won had accepted but had asked for a delayed start date to handle the bereavement and family matters. The company had agreed, giving her 2 months. That 2-month period was now ending. Ji-won's first official day as regional vice president was scheduled for Wednesday, the same day that Linda Chen and Catherine Rodriguez were planning to terminate Marcus Webb. On Tuesday afternoon, Ji-won received an unexpected phone call. It was from David Martinez, the district manager who would be her direct supervisor. "Ji-won, welcome aboard," David said warmly. "I wanted to reach out before your first day tomorrow. I know you will have a lot of orientation meetings, but I wanted to give you a heads up about something." "What is it?" Ji-won asked. "We have a personnel situation at one of our branches. The Metropolitan Bank downtown location. There is going to be a termination tomorrow for an employee who has engaged in harassment and discriminatory behavior. As the new regional VP of Community Relations, you will need to sign off on the termination paperwork. It is one of your official duties." Ji-won felt her heart skip a beat. "Which branch did you say?" "Metropolitan Bank downtown. Do you know it?" "Yes," Ji-won said carefully. "I bank there." "Oh, perfect. Then you know what a good location it is. The branch manager, Catherine Rodriguez, is excellent. She is the one who uncovered this situation and handled it properly. The employee being terminated is Marcus Webb. Have you ever dealt with him?" Ji-won closed her eyes. "Yes, I have." There was a pause on David's end. "Is everything all right?" Ji-won made a quick decision. "David, I need to tell you something. The incident that led to this termination investigation involved my daughter." Another pause, longer this time. "Could you explain?" Ji-won told him everything. David listened in silence, and when she finished, he let out a long breath. "Ji-won, I am so incredibly sorry. I had no idea. This is absolutely unacceptable." "I know," Ji-won said. "That is why I went to the branch manager last week and filed a complaint. I assume that is what started the investigation." "It did," David confirmed. "Catherine Rodriguez took your complaint very seriously. She conducted a thorough investigation and discovered that this was part of a long-term pattern. Ji-won, I want you to know that we were already planning to terminate Marcus Webb based on the evidence. This is not retaliation for you filing a complaint. The investigation revealed multiple other incidents." "I understand," Ji-won said, "but I need to know something. If I had not been hired as regional VP, would this still be happening?" David was quiet for a moment. "I would like to say yes. Catherine Rodriguez is a good manager, and she would have pushed for action regardless. But I will be honest with you. In the past, under previous management, incidents like this were sometimes swept under the rug. That is part of why we created your position. We want to change that culture." "Good," Ji-won said. "Because if I'm going to do this job, I need to know that the company is serious about its values." "We are," David assured her. "And having you sign off on this termination, given your personal connection to the case, sends a strong message. It shows that we hold ourselves accountable even when it is uncomfortable." After the call ended, Ji-won sat in silence. Tomorrow would be her first day in her new role, and her first official act would be signing the termination papers of the man who had humiliated her daughter. The irony was not lost on her. That evening, Ji-won sat with Seo-jun at dinner. Her daughter had been quieter than usual since the incident at the bank. Her teachers had reported that Seo-jun was hesitant to participate in class, particularly when writing on the board was involved. "How was school today?" Ji-won asked. "Fine," Seo-jun said, pushing food around her plate. "Just fine?" Seo-jun shrugged. "We had to write essays in English class. I did not want to turn mine in. Why not? What if my handwriting is bad? What if the teacher thinks I am stupid like that man said?" Ji-won put down her fork and reached across the table to take her daughter's hand. "Seo-jun, look at me." Her daughter looked up, eyes uncertain. "That man was wrong," Ji-won said firmly. "Completely wrong. Your handwriting is fine, and even if it was not, handwriting does not determine how smart you are. Some of the most brilliant people in history had terrible handwriting. Do you know that?" "Really?" Seo-jun asked. "Really. Albert Einstein's handwriting was famously messy. So was Thomas Edison's, and they changed the world." Ji-won squeezed her daughter's hand. "You're smart, talented, and creative. One rude man's opinion does not change that." "But he worked at a bank," Seo-jun said. "He seemed important. He worked at a bank," Ji-won agreed. "But that does not make him right. And tomorrow I'm going to show you something about how the world works." "What?" Seo-jun asked. "Tomorrow is my first day at my new job," Ji-won said. "And part of my job is making sure that people like that man understand that their behavior is not acceptable." Seo-jun looked at her mother with curiosity. "What is your new job?" "I am going to be a regional vice president at a financial company," Ji-won said.
I will be in charge of making sure that banks treat people with respect and fairness. Like a supervisor?
Seo Jun asked, exactly like a supervisor. A supervisor of many banks. Will you be that man's supervisor? Seo Jun asked hopefully. Ji-won smiled, a small, knowing smile. In a way, yes. I will be his supervisor's supervisor. Seo Jun's eyes widened. Really? Really? And tomorrow I have to go to that bank for my first day of work. There is a meeting I have to attend. Ji-won paused, considering how much to tell her daughter. That man is being fired for how he treated you and other people. Seo Jun stared at her mother in disbelief. Because of me? Not just because of you, Ji-won clarified. The bank investigated and found out that he had been rude to many people for many years. Your situation was just the one that finally made them pay attention. But yes, partly because of you. Because you did not deserve to be treated that way, and neither did anyone else. Tears filled Seo Jun's eyes, but this time they were different tears. Not tears of humiliation, but tears of relief and validation. So I was right to be upset? She asked quietly. You were absolutely right to be upset, Ji-won confirmed. And I was right to complain. And the bank is right to fire him. Sometimes standing up for yourself leads to changes that help other people too. That night, Seo Jun slept better than she had in over a week. The weight of shame and self-doubt that had been pressing down on her began to lift. Her mother had validated her feelings and had taken action. Justice was being served. Ji-won, however, did not sleep well. She lay awake thinking about the next day. She had never imagined that her first official act as regional vice president would be so personal. She wondered if she should recuse herself from signing the termination papers if there was a conflict of interest. But then she thought about all the other people Marcus Webb had hurt over the years. The employees who felt belittled. The customers who had closed their accounts rather than face his judgment. The young mother on public assistance. The elderly man whose accent had been mocked. This was bigger than just her and Seo Jun. This was about accountability. On Wednesday morning, Ji-won dressed carefully in her best suit. She looked at herself in the mirror and thought about her late husband. He would have been so proud of this moment, proud of her standing up for their daughter and for others who had no voice. She drove Seo Jun to school first. Before her daughter got out of the car, Ji-won turned to her. Remember what I told you? You are smart and capable. Do not let anyone make you feel small. I will remember, Seo Jun promised. Mom, thank you. For what? For believing me. For doing something about it? Ji-won hugged her daughter tight. Always. I will always believe you and fight for you. After dropping Seo Jun at school, Ji-won drove to the corporate headquarters of Metropolitan Financial Group. She spent the morning in orientation meetings, learning about company policies, meeting her team and setting up her office. Everyone was welcoming and professional. At 11:30, David Martinez appeared at her door. Ji-won, it is time, he said. Catherine Rodriguez and Linda Chen are waiting for us at the downtown branch. The termination meeting is scheduled for noon. Ji-won stood, smoothing her skirt. She picked up her briefcase and followed David to his car. As they drove through the city toward the bank where her daughter had been humiliated just over a week ago, Ji-won felt a strange sense of calm. This was the right thing to do. Not for revenge, but for accountability. Not just for Seo Jun, but for everyone who had been hurt by Marcus Webb's behavior over the years. The car pulled up in front of Metropolitan Bank. Ji-won looked at the building where this had all started. She took a deep breath. Ready? David asked. Ready, Ji-won confirmed. They walked through the glass doors together. Catherine Rodriguez was waiting in the lobby, and when she saw Ji-won, her eyes widened in recognition. Mrs. Park, Catherine said, confused. Hello, Catherine, Ji-won said. I think we need to talk before the meeting. Catherine Rodriguez stood in the bank lobby, her expression shifting from confusion to understanding in the space of seconds. The woman she knew as Mrs. Park, the mother who had filed a complaint about Marcus Webb, was standing next to David Martinez, the district manager. And they had arrived together. Perhaps we should talk in your office, David suggested, noting the curious glances from bank employees. Catherine nodded and led them through the bank to her private office. Once the door was closed, David made the formal introduction. Catherine, I would like you to meet Ji-won Park, our new regional vice president of community relations. Ji-won will be overseeing customer experience and diversity initiatives across all 47 branches in our district, including this one. Catherine's eyes widened. She looked at Jiwon with a mixture of surprise and respect. Mrs. Park, I had no idea. I know, Jiwon said. I accepted this position 2 months ago before my husband passed away. The company gave me time for bereavement, which is why I am only starting today. She paused. I did not mention my new role when I came to file the complaint because I wanted the situation to be handled on its own merits, not because of my position. And it was, Catherine assured her quickly. Jiwon, I want you to know that your complaint triggered a thorough investigation, but what we discovered went far beyond the incident with your daughter. Marcus Webb has a documented 15-year pattern of discriminatory behavior toward customers and employees. I have read the full report, David added. Catherine did excellent work documenting everything. The decision to terminate Marcus Webb is based on multiple incidents and clear policy violations. Jiwon nodded slowly. I appreciate you telling me that. But I need to ask a difficult question. If I had not filed a complaint, would this investigation have happened? Catherine was quiet for a moment, then answered honestly. I do not know. I had noticed some troubling behavior from Marcus since I became branch manager 6 months ago. I was keeping an eye on him. But your complaint gave me concrete evidence to act on. It forced me to dig deeper, and that is when I discovered the full scope of the problem. So without my complaint, he might still be here, Jiwon said. Possibly, Catherine admitted, and that bothers me greatly. It tells me that our systems for identifying and addressing this kind of behavior need significant improvement. That is exactly why we created Jiwon's position, David said. We want to change the culture, not just react to complaints. We want to build systems that prevent this kind of behavior from continuing for 15 years. Linda Chen, the HR specialist, knocked on the door and entered. She had been preparing the termination paperwork in a conference room down the hall. Everything is ready, Linda said. Then she noticed Jiwon and paused. Mrs. Park? I am sorry, I did not realize you would be here. Linda, this is Jiwon Park, our new regional vice president, David explained. She will be signing off on the termination as part of her official duties. Linda's professional composure slipped for just a second as she processed this information. I see, that is quite a coincidence. Not a coincidence, Jiwon said. A consequence. This situation is exactly the kind of problem I was hired to address. Has Marcus Webb been informed that there is a meeting? David asked. Yes, Catherine said. I told him this morning that there would be a personnel meeting at noon. He thinks it is a routine review. He has no idea what is coming. Good, David said. Let us proceed. Jiwon, are you comfortable being part of this meeting given your personal connection to the case? Jiwon considered the question carefully. Yes, I think it is important that I am here. This is not about revenge. This is about accountability, and I want Marcus Webb to understand that actions have consequences. They walked to the conference room together. It was a small windowless room with a table and 6 chairs. Linda had arranged the termination documents in a neat stack at one end of the table. Catherine went to get Marcus Webb. As they waited, Jiwon felt her heart beating faster. She thought about Seo-jun sitting in the waiting area, being mocked in front of strangers. She thought about all the other people who had been hurt by this man's cruelty. And she steadied herself. The door opened. Marcus Webb walked in looking relaxed and confident. He wore another gray suit, his name tag polished and straight. His expression was pleasant, the face of a man who had no idea his world was about to collapse. Then he saw the people in the room. Catherine Rodriguez, his branch manager, Linda Chen, who he vaguely recognized from a corporate HR visit months ago, David Martinez, the district manager who he had only met a few times, and a woman he did not recognize at all, dressed in an expensive suit and holding a leather briefcase. Marcus's smile faded slightly. This did not look like a routine meeting. Please sit down, Marcus, Catherine said, gesturing to a chair on one side of the table. Marcus sat slowly, his eyes moving from face to face, trying to understand what was happening. The 4 of them sat across from him in a line, a wall of corporate authority. Linda Chen spoke first. Marcus, I am Linda Chen from Corporate Human Resources. We are here today to discuss serious concerns regarding your conduct as an employee of Metropolitan Bank. Marcus's face went pale. What concerns? Over the past week, we have conducted a comprehensive investigation into multiple complaints about your behavior toward customers and colleagues, Linda continued. The investigation was triggered by an incident that occurred here on the afternoon of Thursday, October 24th. Marcus tried to remember. October 24th, Thursday. What had happened that day? We have reviewed security footage, interviewed multiple staff members and former customers, and examined your complete employment history, Linda said. The evidence shows a clear pattern of discriminatory and harassing behavior that violates our company's code of conduct and policies on respect and inclusion. I do not understand, Marcus said, his voice defensive. I have been with this bank for 15 years. My performance reviews have always been excellent. Your technical performance has been adequate, Catherine said, but technical skills are not the only measure of an employee's value. How you treat people matters. Linda opened a folder and pulled out several documents. I'm going to give you specific examples. On October 24th, you approached a 12-year-old customer in the waiting area. You mocked her handwriting, called it chicken scratch, and suggested she did not belong at her private school. Do you remember this? Marcus's face went from pale to red. He did remember. The girl with the permission slip. But it had been nothing, just a casual interaction. He had not thought about it since. I was just making conversation, Marcus said weakly. You made her cry, Catherine said. You humiliated a child in front of other customers. And when her mother came to me with a complaint, I discovered that this was not an isolated incident. Linda pulled out more papers. 3 years ago, you made dismissive comments to an elderly customer about his accent. 5 years ago, you told a female customer she should bring her husband to help her understand financial products. 18 months ago, you made judgmental comments to a young mother about being on public assistance. Those are misunderstandings, Marcus protested. People are too sensitive these days. We also interviewed your colleagues, Linda continued. Min Ho Kim reported that you regularly make comments about his accent and his ethnicity. Patricia Johnson documented multiple instances of you undermining her authority with customers and making ageist remarks. Marcus looked at Catherine with anger. You interviewed my colleagues behind my back? We conducted a confidential workplace investigation, Catherine said, which is standard procedure for harassment complaints. This is ridiculous, Marcus said, his voice rising. I have done nothing wrong. I have given this bank 15 years of loyal service. You have given this bank 15 years of technical competence while making customers and colleagues feel disrespected and diminished. David Martinez spoke for the first time. His voice was calm but firm. That is not the kind of employee we want representing Metropolitan Financial Group. Marcus turned to look at David, finally recognizing the district manager. Sir, surely you understand that in customer service you deal with all kinds of people. Sometimes you have to be direct. There is a difference between being direct and being cruel, David said. You crossed that line repeatedly. Linda slid a document across the table to Marcus. We are terminating your employment with Metropolitan Bank, effective immediately. This is for cause, based on multiple violations of our harassment and discrimination policies. Marcus stared at the paper as if it might burn him. You cannot do this. I will fight this. I will get a lawyer. That is your right, Linda said. But I should inform you that we have extensive documentation, including video evidence, witness statements, and a clear pattern of behavior over many years. We are confident in our decision. Marcus's hands were shaking now. 15 years. His entire adult career. Gone. This is because of that girl, is it not? Because I made a comment about her handwriting? This is because you have spent 15 years treating people with disrespect, Catherine said. That girl's complaint simply forced us to look at something we should have addressed long ago. Marcus turned his anger on Catherine. You have only been here 6 months. You do not know what it takes to run a bank. I have been here longer than you. I know more than you. And yet you are the one being fired, Catherine said quietly. The room fell silent. Marcus seemed to shrink in his chair, the reality of the situation finally sinking in. There is one more thing, David said. He gestured to Jiwon, who had been sitting silently, watching Marcus carefully. Marcus, this is Jiwon Park, our regional vice president of community relations. As part of her duties, she must sign off on all terminations in our district. Marcus looked at Jiwon for the first time since the meeting began. She was professional, composed, her expression neutral. He had no idea who she was or why she mattered. Mrs. Park has reviewed all the evidence in your case, David continued. She has the authority to approve or deny this termination. Ji-won reached for the termination letter. She picked up her pen, a nice fountain pen that her late husband had given her when she started her MBA program. She held it carefully, her hand steady. Marcus watched her, confused about why this particular executive needed to sign his termination papers. What made her so important? Ji-won looked up and met Marcus's eyes. When she spoke, her voice was clear and firm. Mr. Webb, before I sign this document, I want you to understand something. Your actions have consequences that extend far beyond what you can see. When you mocked a 12-year-old girl's handwriting, you did not just hurt her feelings. You made her question her intelligence. You made her doubt whether she belonged at her school. You damaged her confidence for weeks. Marcus stared at her, a terrible suspicion starting to form in his mind. That 12-year-old girl is my daughter, Ji-won said. The color drained from Marcus's face completely. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Her name is Seo-jun, Ji-won continued. She is a brilliant student who won her school science fair. She reads at a college level. She speaks 2 languages fluently. And yes, she is left-handed, which makes handwriting challenging. But that does not make her less intelligent or less worthy of respect. Marcus looked like he might be sick. You did not just hurt my daughter, Ji-won said. You hurt Minho, who was born in this country but still faces questions about his identity. You hurt Patricia, who has more experience than you but had to endure your condescension. You hurt that young mother on public assistance, who was trying to build a better life for her children. You hurt the elderly man whose accent you mocked, even though he probably speaks more languages than you. She paused, letting her words sink in. I am not signing this termination letter because of what you did to my daughter, though that would be reason enough. I am signing it because you have spent 15 years treating people as less than human, and that ends today. Ji-won clicked her pen and signed her name at the bottom of the termination letter. Her signature was elegant and flowing, each letter carefully formed. She slid the paper across the table to Marcus. Your turn, she said. Marcus Webb stared at the termination letter in front of him. Ji-won Park's signature was right there at the bottom, elegant and precise. His hands trembled as the full weight of the situation crashed down on him. The mother, the woman whose daughter he had mocked, was now his superior. No, not just his superior. She was several levels above him in the corporate hierarchy, and she had just ended his career. I did not know, Marcus stammered. I did not know who she was. I did not know you worked here. That should not matter, Ji-won said, her voice steady. You should treat every customer with respect, whether they are a child with a permission slip or a wealthy business owner. That is basic human decency. Marcus reached for the paper with shaking hands. He picked up the pen that Linda pushed toward him. His mind was racing, trying to find a way out, trying to think of something to say that would fix this. Please, he said, looking around at the faces staring at him. Please, I am sorry. I can change. I can do better. I have worked here for 15 years. This bank is my life. You should have thought about that before you spent 15 years hurting people, Catherine said. I never meant to hurt anyone, Marcus insisted. I was just being honest. I was just trying to help people improve. By mocking a child's handwriting? Ji-won asked. By suggesting she did not belong at her school? How is that helpful? Marcus had no answer. He looked down at the termination letter again. There was a line at the bottom where he needed to sign, acknowledging that he had received notice of his termination. If I sign this, what happens? Marcus asked. Your employment ends immediately, Linda explained. You will be escorted from the building. Your access to bank systems will be terminated. You will receive 2 weeks of severance pay, which is more generous than required for a termination with cause. Your health insurance will continue for 30 days while you transition to new coverage. And if I do not sign, then you will still be fired, Linda said bluntly. The termination is not contingent on your signature. We are simply asking you to acknowledge that you received this notice. If you refuse to sign, we will note that in your file and proceed anyway. Marcus understood. There was no way out. He picked up the pen and signed his name. His signature was messy and rushed, nothing like the careful elegance of Ji-won's writing. The irony was not lost on him. I will need your building access card, your company credit card, and any bank keys you have, Linda said. Pulling out a plastic bag, Marcus fumbled with his wallet, pulling out the cards. He unclipped his name tag from his suit jacket and added it to the pile. 15 years of identity, reduced to a bag of plastic and metal. Security will escort you to your desk to collect your personal belongings, David said. You will have 15 minutes. Please do not access any computer systems or take any company documents. A security guard appeared at the door as if on cue. Marcus stood up slowly, looking around the room one last time. His eyes landed on Jiwon. For what it is worth, Marcus said quietly, I am sorry about your daughter. I truly did not realize how my words would affect her. Jiwon studied him for a long moment. Mr. Webb, I believe you did not realize it. And that is the problem. You never thought about how your words affected anyone. You never considered that your casual cruelty had real consequences for real people. That is why you are being fired. Not because of one mistake, but because of 15 years of not caring. Marcus had nothing to say to that. He followed the security guard out of the conference room. After he left, the room was quiet for a moment. David Martinez let out a long breath. That was difficult to watch, he said. It needed to happen, Catherine said firmly. He had too many chances already. Linda began gathering the paperwork. I will process everything this afternoon. Jiwon, I will need you to sign a few more documents for HR records. Of course, Jiwon said. David turned to Jiwon with concern. How are you doing? That could not have been easy. It was not easy, Jiwon admitted, but it was necessary. And honestly, I feel relieved. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I know he will not hurt anyone else here. Speaking of which, Catherine said, I would like to schedule a meeting with the entire staff. They need to know what happened and why. They need to understand that this behavior will not be tolerated. Good idea, David agreed. Jiwon, would you be willing to attend that meeting? I think it would send a powerful message for staff to meet their new regional VP and understand her role. I will be there, Jiwon said. Through the conference room window, they could see Marcus being escorted to his desk. Several employees watched with confusion and concern. Marcus grabbed a few personal items, a coffee mug, some family photos, and stuffed them into a cardboard box. His movements were mechanical, his face blank with shock. Patricia Johnson, the customer service representative who had provided testimony about Marcus's behavior, watched from her station. When Marcus caught her eye, she looked away. She felt no satisfaction in seeing him fired, only relief that he was finally leaving. Min-Ho Kim, the young teller, saw the commotion and understood what was happening. He had been afraid to speak up for so long, worried that no one would believe him or that he would be labeled as too sensitive. Now seeing Marcus escorted out by security, he felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Within minutes, Marcus was gone. The glass doors closed behind him and he walked down the street carrying his box of belongings, his 15-year career over. Back in the conference room, Catherine checked her watch. I can gather the staff for a meeting in 30 minutes. Is that enough time? That works, David said. He turned to Jiwon. Are you sure you are ready for this? It is your first day, and we are throwing you into a difficult situation. Jiwon smiled slightly. David, I spent the last 2 years earning my MBA while working and raising a daughter alone. Then my husband died, and I balanced grief with job interviews and finishing my degree. This morning, I signed the termination papers for the man who hurt my child. I think I can handle a staff meeting, David laughed. Fair point. Catherine, let us give the staff 15 minutes to gather. Then we will meet in the main conference room. While Catherine went to inform the employees about the meeting, Jiwon stepped outside the bank to call her daughter's school. Seojun had a study period at this time, and Jiwon had arranged for the school to transfer a call if she needed to speak with her daughter. After a few minutes, Seojun came to the phone. Mom, is everything okay? Seojun asked, sounding worried. Everything is fine, baby, Jiwon said. I just wanted to tell you that the meeting happened. The man from the bank does not work there anymore. There was silence on the other end. Then Seojun said quietly, Really? Really? He was fired because of how he treated you and many other people. And I was the one who signed the papers. You signed them? Seojun asked, her voice filled with wonder. I did. With the pen your father gave me. Seojun was quiet again, processing this. Mom, does this mean I did not do anything wrong? You never did anything wrong, Jiwon said firmly. Not for 1 second. That man was wrong. The bank was wrong for not stopping him sooner. But you were never wrong. I love you, Mom. I love you too. I will see you after school. And tonight we are going out for ice cream to celebrate. Celebrate what? Celebrate you being brave enough to tell me what happened. Celebrate me standing up for you. Celebrate that sometimes. Even when bad things happen, justice can come. After hanging up, Ji-won stood outside the bank for a moment, looking up at the building. She thought about her late husband, about how proud he would be of her right now. She thought about all the times she had doubted herself during her MBA program, wondering if she was smart enough, capable enough, strong enough to reach this level. She was enough. She had always been enough. David came to find her. Ready? Ready, Ji-won said. They walked back inside together. The main conference room was filling with employees. All 15 staff members of the branch were gathering, their faces curious and concerned. They had all seen Marcus being escorted out. They all wanted to know what had happened. Catherine stood at the front of the room waiting for everyone to settle. When the last person sat down, she began. "Thank you all for coming on short notice," Catherine said. "I know you have questions about what happened this afternoon. Marcus Webb's employment with Metropolitan Bank has been terminated, effective immediately." A murmur went through the room. Some people looked shocked. Others looked relieved. Patricia Johnson sat with her hands folded, her face calm. "I want to be clear about why this action was taken," Catherine continued. "Over the past week, we conducted a thorough investigation into Marcus's conduct. We discovered a pattern of behavior that violated our policies on harassment, discrimination, and respect in the workplace." She paused, letting that sink in. "Some of you came forward confidentially to share your experiences. I want to thank you for your courage. Your testimony was essential in helping us understand the full scope of the problem, and I want to assure you that your confidentiality has been and will continue to be protected." Min-ho Kim felt tears sting his eyes. Someone had listened. Someone had believed him. "I also want to acknowledge that this situation reveals failures in our management systems," Catherine said. "Marcus's behavior was allowed to continue for too long. Previous managers did not take complaints seriously enough. That ends now." David stepped forward. "I am David Martinez, the district manager. I oversee this branch and 46 others in our district. What happened here with Marcus Webb is unacceptable, and it represents a failure of leadership that I take personally. We should have addressed this behavior years ago." He gestured to Ji-won. "I would like to introduce you to someone who is going to help us make sure this never happens again. This is Ji-won Park, our new regional vice president of community relations." Ji-won stepped forward and several employees recognized her immediately. She was the woman who had been in the waiting area with her daughter, the woman who had come back to file a complaint. "Hello everyone," Ji-won said. "Some of you may recognize me. Last week I brought my daughter to this bank, and while we were here, Marcus Webb approached her and mocked her handwriting in front of other customers. He made her feel ashamed and worthless. She cried all the way home. The room was completely silent now. Everyone was listening. When I filed a complaint with Catherine, I did not know it would lead to a full investigation," Ji-won continued. "But I am grateful it did, because what we discovered was that my daughter was not the only person Marcus hurt. Many of you suffered under his behavior. Customers closed accounts rather than face his judgment. And it continued for 15 years because no one held him accountable." She looked around the room, making eye contact with as many people as she could. "I was hired to change that culture. My job is to make sure that every customer who walks into any of our banks is treated with dignity and respect. My job is to make sure that every employee has a workplace free from harassment and discrimination. And my job is to build systems that prevent people like Marcus Webb from hurting others for 15 years. Patricia Johnson raised her hand. "What kind of systems?" "Good question," Ji-won said. "We are going to implement mandatory training on unconscious bias and respectful communication for all employees. We are going to create clearer reporting channels for complaints, so people do not feel like their concerns will be ignored. We are going to do regular climate surveys to identify problems before they become crises. And we are going to hold managers accountable for creating inclusive workplaces." Another employee spoke up. "Will there be retaliation against people who complained about Marcus?" "Absolutely not," David said firmly. "Retaliation is illegal and against company policy. If anyone experiences retaliation, you report it immediately, and it will be dealt with swiftly." The meeting continued for another 30 minutes. Employees asked questions. Catherine, David, and Ji-won answered honestly. By the end, the atmosphere in the room had shifted from anxiety to cautious hope. As the meeting ended and employees returned to work, Patricia Johnson approached Ji-won. Mrs. Park, can I speak with you for a moment? Of course. And please call me G1. Patricia's eyes were damp. I just wanted to say thank you. I have worked here for 12 years, and for most of that time, Marcus made me feel invisible and incompetent. I complained twice to previous managers, and both times I was told I was being too sensitive. I had almost given up. G1 took Patricia's hand. You were never too sensitive. You were exactly right. And I'm sorry it took so long for someone to listen. Your daughter is lucky to have you, Patricia said. I am lucky to have her, G1 replied. She is the brave one. She told me what happened even though it hurt. That took courage. As G1 left the bank that afternoon, she felt exhausted but satisfied. Her first day had been harder than she could have imagined. But it had also been exactly what she needed to do. She picked up Seo-jun from school, and true to her promise, they went for ice cream. They sat in the shop, eating sundaes, and for the first time in weeks, Seo-jun smiled without any shadow in her eyes. 3 weeks had passed since Marcus Webb walked out of Metropolitan Bank for the last time. The branch had settled into a new rhythm, one that felt lighter and more respectful. Employees smiled more. Customers noticed the difference, though most could not explain exactly what had changed. Ji-won Park had thrown herself into her new role with determination and purpose. Her office was now filled with binders of policy documents, reports from all 47 branches in the district, and plans for the new training programs she was developing. But today, she had something special planned. She had invited Seo-jun to visit her office after school. It would be the first time her daughter saw where she worked, and Ji-won wanted to show her that good things could come from difficult situations. At 3:30, Seo-jun walked through the doors of the Metropolitan Financial Group headquarters. The building was tall and modern, with glass windows and marble floors. A security guard directed her to the elevators, and she rode up to the 7th floor where her mother's office was located. Ji-won was waiting in the hallway when the elevator doors opened. She wore a professional navy suit, her hair pulled back, looking confident and powerful. Seo-jun felt a surge of pride seeing her mother like this. Welcome to my office, Ji-won said, hugging her daughter. What do you think? It is so big, Seo-jun said, looking around at the corporate corridors with their professional artwork and quiet efficiency. They walked to Ji-won's office, which had a window overlooking the city. Seo-jun's eyes went wide. There was a large desk with 2 computer monitors, shelves full of books about business and leadership, and a small sitting area with comfortable chairs. This is all yours? Seo-jun asked. All mine, Ji-won confirmed with a smile. Sit down, I want to show you something. She pulled out a folder from her desk drawer. Inside were letters. Dozens of them. What are these? Seo-jun asked. These are letters from customers, Ji-won said. After word got out about what happened with Marcus Webb, people started writing to the bank. Some of them were former customers who wanted to share their own stories about how they had been treated poorly. Others were current customers thanking us for taking action. She handed one letter to Seo-jun. It was from Jennifer Torres, the single mother who had closed her account rather than face Marcus's judgment. Dear Metropolitan Bank, Seo-jun read aloud. I closed my account 2 years ago because an employee made me feel ashamed of being poor. I just heard that he was fired. I want you to know that his behavior made me afraid to go to banks at all. I started keeping cash in my apartment, which was dangerous. Thank you for finally doing something about him. I am thinking about opening an account with you again. Seo-jun looked up at her mother. She was afraid to go to banks? Yes, Ji-won said. That is how much Marcus's words affected her. And she was not alone. She showed Seo-jun more letters. Some were from employees at other branches who had experienced similar treatment. Some were from community leaders who appreciated the bank taking discrimination seriously. And some were from former co-workers of Marcus who wanted to apologize for not speaking up sooner. All of this happened because you told me what he did to you, Ji-won said. Because you were brave enough to speak up. I did not feel brave, Seo-jun admitted. I just felt hurt. Being brave does not mean you are not hurt, Ji-won said. It means you speak up even when you are hurt. There was a knock on the door. Catherine Rodriguez stood in the doorway holding a small gift bag. I hope I am not interrupting, Catherine said. I wanted to drop this off for Seo-jun. Come in, Ji-won said warmly. Seo-jun, you remember Ms. Rodriguez, the branch manager who helped us? Seo-jun nodded shyly. Catherine smiled and handed her the gift bag. This is from all of us at the downtown branch, Catherine said. We wanted to thank you. Seo-jun opened the bag carefully. Inside was a beautiful journal with a leather cover. On the first page, someone had written a message in elegant handwriting. Dear Seo-jun, your voice matters. Your words have power. Never let anyone make you feel small. Thank you for speaking up and helping us become better. With gratitude, the staff of Metropolitan Bank. Below the message were signatures from every employee at the branch. Patricia Johnson, Min-ho Kim, and all the others who had witnessed the change that Seo-jun's complaint had triggered. Seo-jun's eyes filled with tears, but they were good tears this time. Thank you, she whispered. No, thank you, Catherine said. You helped us see a problem we should have fixed years ago. After Catherine left, Ji-won took Seo-jun on a tour of the building. They walked past the offices of other executives, the conference rooms where important decisions were made, and the employee break room where staff gathered for lunch. As they walked, Ji-won pointed out the new initiatives she was working on. See that conference room? Next week, we are starting the first mandatory training session on unconscious bias and respectful communication. Every employee in all 47 branches will go through it. What will they learn? Seo-jun asked. They will learn about how words can hurt even when people do not mean them to. They will learn about treating everyone with dignity, regardless of how they look or how much money they have. They will learn that being good at your job means more than just technical skills. It means being a good human being. They stopped at a display board near the main entrance. Ji-won pointed to a new poster that had been designed by the marketing department. It showed diverse faces of different ages, races, and backgrounds. The text read, "Respect has no exceptions. Dignity for every customer every time." Did you make this? Seo-jun asked. I helped design it, Ji-won said. These posters will go up in every branch next month. I want customers to see them when they walk in and know that we mean what we say. As they left the building and walked to the car, Seo-jun was quiet, processing everything she had seen. Mom, can I ask you something? She said finally. Anything. Do you think Mr. Webb understands what he did wrong? It was a thoughtful question, one that showed Seo-jun's maturity. Ji-won considered it carefully as they got into the car. I do not know, Ji-won said honestly. Some people who hurt others learn from the experience and change. Other people just feel angry that they got caught. I hope Marcus Webb learns and becomes better, but whether he does or not, the important thing is that he cannot hurt anyone else at our bank. What do you think he is doing now? Seo-jun asked. I heard he got a job at a different company, not in banking, Ji-won said. I hope his new workplace has better training and clearer expectations about respect. I hope he uses this as a chance to grow. They drove in comfortable silence for a while. Then Seo-jun pulled out the journal that the bank staff had given her. I think I am going to use this for my writing, she said. I have been working on a story for English class. What is it about? Ji-won asked. It is about a girl who thinks she is not good enough, but then she learns that other people's mean words say more about them than about her. Seo-jun said. Is that too obvious? Ji-won smiled. It sounds perfect. Sometimes the most important stories are the ones that seem obvious, because they are true. That evening, after dinner, Seo-jun sat at the kitchen table with her new journal. She opened to the first page and read the message from the bank employees again. Then she turned to the next page and began to write. Her handwriting was still imperfect. Some letters tilted. The side of her hand still smudged the ink slightly. But she wrote with confidence now, her pen moving steadily across the page. Ji-won watched from the doorway, not interrupting. She thought about everything that had happened over the past month. The humiliation in the bank, the investigation, the termination meeting, the changes that were beginning to take root in the company culture. She thought about her late husband and wished he could see their daughter now, writing with her head held high. She thought about all the people who had been hurt by Marcus Webb over the years and hoped that the changes they were implementing would prevent future harm. Most of all, she thought about the power of speaking up. One complaint, one investigation, one termination, and now systemic changes that would affect thousands of customers and hundreds of employees. The next day, Ji-won had a meeting with David Martinez and the other regional vice presidents. They were discussing the rollout of the new training programs and policy changes. The response from branch managers has been overwhelmingly positive, David reported. Catherine Rodriguez at the downtown branch has already volunteered to be a pilot location for the new customer service standards. That is great, G1 said. How are the employees responding? There is some resistance from a few longtime employees who think this is all too politically correct, another VP admitted. They say we are being too sensitive. Then we need to help them understand that respect is not about being politically correct, G1 said firmly. It is about creating an environment where every customer feels valued and every employee can do their best work. If someone cannot treat people with basic dignity, they should not be working in customer service. The other executives nodded in agreement. G1 had quickly earned their respect with her clear vision and unwavering commitment to change. We have also been tracking customer satisfaction scores, David added. The downtown branch has seen a 12% increase since the personnel changes. Customer complaints are down and several former customers have reopened accounts. Including Jennifer Torres? G1 asked. Including Jennifer Torres, David confirmed with a smile. She came in last week and opened a new account. She specifically asked to work with Patricia Johnson. G1 felt a warm satisfaction hearing that. It was not just about punishing bad behavior. It was about creating space for good behavior to flourish. 2 months later, the changes were in full effect. All employees had completed the first round of training. New reporting systems were in place for complaints. Customer satisfaction scores were up across the district, and the culture was noticeably different. Ji-won received an email from Min-ho Kim, the young teller who had been afraid to speak up about Marcus's comments. Dear Mrs. Park, the email read, I wanted to let you know that I have been promoted to assistant branch manager at the downtown location. Catherine Rodriguez recommended me for the position. A year ago, I never would have applied because I did not think I was good enough. But the changes you have made have helped me see my own value. Thank you for creating a workplace where people like me can thrive. Ji-won printed the email and added it to a folder she kept in her desk. It joined the letter from Jennifer Torres, thank you notes from other employees, and a drawing that Seo-jun had made showing her mother as a superhero with a briefcase. That weekend, Ji-won and Seo-jun went back to the Metropolitan Bank downtown branch. Not because they needed to, but because Seo-jun had asked to go. She wanted to face the place where she had been hurt and reclaim it. They walked through the same glass doors, sat in the same waiting area, but this time, everything was different. Patricia Johnson saw them and came over immediately. Mrs. Park, Seo-jun, how wonderful to see you. We just wanted to stop by, Ji-won said. Seo-jun has something to show the staff. As Seo-jun pulled out her journal, the one the employees had given her, she had filled nearly half of it with stories, poems, and drawings. She opened to a specific page. I wrote a story for English class, Seo-jun said. It won an award at my school. I wanted you to see it. Patricia took the journal carefully and read the first few lines. It was a story about a young girl who learned that other people's cruelty could not define her worth. It was honest and heartfelt, written in Seo-jun's imperfect but authentic handwriting. This is beautiful, Patricia said, her voice thick with emotion. Would you mind if I shared this with the other staff members? Seo-jun nodded. That is why I brought it. Within minutes, several employees had gathered to read Seo-jun's story. Min-ho Kim, now wearing an assistant manager name tag, smiled as he read. A new employee who had been hired just last month looked confused about why everyone was so moved by a student essay, until Patricia quietly explained what had happened. You know what I think? Patricia said, looking at Seo-jun. I think you should be proud of your handwriting. Every single letter shows that you care enough to try, and that matters more than perfect penmanship. Seo-jun smiled, a real, genuine smile that reached her eyes. As they left the bank, Ji-won put her arm around her daughter's shoulders. How do you feel? Good, Seo-jun said. I feel really good. They walked past the spot where Marcus Webb's desk used to be. A new employee sat there now, a kind-looking woman in her 30s who had just moved to the city. She did not know the history of that particular workspace. She did not know about the man who had been fired or the girl who had been hurt. and that was okay. The past had been acknowledged and addressed. Now it was time to build something better. That night, Seo-jun added a new entry to her journal. She wrote about her visit to the bank, about how facing her fear had made her stronger. She wrote about her mother's courage and the way that standing up for yourself could create ripples of change that affected many people. At the bottom of the page, she practiced her signature. It was still a work in progress, still tilted and imperfect, but it was hers, and it was enough. In her own office at home, Ji-won reviewed the latest reports from the district branches. Customer satisfaction was at an all-time high. Employee retention had improved. 3 more branch managers had requested the advanced training that Catherine Rodriguez had pioneered. The work was far from over. Changing culture took time and constant effort. There would be more challenges, more difficult conversations, more resistance to overcome. But Ji-won was ready. She thought about the pen her late husband had given her, the pen she had used to sign Marcus Webb's termination letter. She pulled it out and looked at it carefully. Then she opened her own journal and began writing notes for her next initiative, a mentorship program for young employees from underrepresented backgrounds, a customer advisory council to provide feedback on bank policies, partnerships with community organizations to better serve low-income families. One signature had ended Marcus Webb's career, but that same signature would open doors for countless others. Justice was not just about punishment, it was about prevention. It was about building systems that protected people instead of harming them. It was about creating a world where a 12-year-old girl could fill out a permission slip in a bank waiting room without fear of mockery. Ji-won smiled as she wrote, her own handwriting flowing across the page with confidence and purpose. She had found her calling, and it had all started with a mother's love and a daughter's courage. The end was really just the beginning.